Hi, this lesson is about multiplying polynomials. And depending on what we're actually multiplying, whether it's a monomial by a polynomial or two binomials, that will depend on whether we're just using the distributive property or if we're using a method called the FOIL method. So first we're going to start with using the distributive property to multiply expressions. So in this first example, I have a monomial times a trinomial. So distributive property means that you are going to distribute a squared across these three terms. And because we're multiplying monomials when you distribute, you have to remember the rules for a multiplication of monomials when you have the same base. In this case, our base is a. And remember that you add the exponents. So the first term is 2a to the fourth. The second one is minus 3a cubed. And the last one is 7a squared. Okay, let's do number 2. This one has two variables in the monomial in front of the polynomial. There's four terms in the polynomial. So we're going to distribute negative 3xy across those four terms. So you have to keep track of both the x's and the y's changing. So our first term is negative 3x to the fourth, because x and x cubed becomes x to the fourth times y. The y does not change here. And then the next one, well, that'll give me negative 6 x to the third. Again, x to the first times x squared is x to the third, and y times y gives you y squared. Continue distributing to the third one. That gives me a positive 15x squared y cubed. And finally, the last one will be a positive 4x y to the fourth, again, because this y combines with that y, and you get y to the fourth power when you add your exponents. All right, so number 3 is a little bit more complex because I'm multiplying a binomial times a trinomial. In this example, I have to distribute, but I have to distribute 2x first across all three terms, and then I'm going to distribute the y. So I wrote out exactly what I'm multiplying here on this second line. I'm going to take 2x, my first term in the binomial, and multiply it by x squared, then 2x, multiply it by negative 3xy, that's this one. Take 2x, multiply it by y squared, that's this one. So those are my first three terms right here. Then you have to repeat the process with the y, which is the second term of the binomial, and you have to multiply y times x squared, then y times negative 3xy, so that's when you distribute second one, and then y times y squared, so that's the work that you see here. Okay, so in the next line, I'm actually going to do all of those multiplications. So I get 2x cubed minus 6x squared y plus 2xy squared plus x squared y minus 3xy squared plus y cubed. So you're not quite done because I do have some like terms. 2x cubed doesn't combine with anything, but negative 6x squared y will combine with 1x squared y to give me my second answer, negative 5x squared y. So we took care of that. And then 2xy squared will combine with the negative 3xy squared to give me negative xy squared. And then finally, y cubed doesn't combine with anything, so that's your last term. So your answer is the answer that you see here in the box. All right, so let's move on to multiplying two binomials, a binomial times a binomial. In that case, we're going to use something called the FOIL method. FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, and last. Now I color-coded it so that I could show you the example here on the right. So here is my are my two binomials that I'm multiplying. First means that you're multiplying the first terms in each of the binomials. So that's the F part of FOIL. So it's 2x times x, and that's in blue. Outer means that you're taking the two terms that are on the outside part. So that's the 2x and the 4. So that's the O part, or the hot pink part, 2x times 4. Inner are the two expressions that are closest to each other. So that's the 1 and the x. That's the I, the one we call inner, that's written in green, 1 times x. And last are the second term in each binomial. That's 1 times 4. That's what I wrote in purple, which becomes 4. So when you multiply these out, you get this line right here, 2x squared plus 8x plus x plus 4. But my middle terms, my outer and my inner, combine are like terms. They combine to give you 9, so 9x. So your final answer is what you see here in the box, 2x squared plus 9x plus 4. Okay, so FOIL method is a really important method for you to master. You have to do a lot of examples until it becomes really natural for you, and that will help you to get faster and better at it. And it will also help you later on in Module 11 when we do factoring, which is the opposite of foiling. Okay, so message there is practice. So we're going to multiply the following by the FOIL method. So whenever you see two binomials being multiplied, assume you're using FOIL, even if the directions don't say to do that. So let's do the first one right here. So first is x times x, that's x squared. Outer is x and negative 3, so that's negative 3x. I would always put the sign in front of the product. Inner is negative 7 times x, so that's a minus 7x. And last are the two constants, negative 7 times negative 3, which gives me negative 21. Negative 3x and negative 7x combine to give you negative 10x, because you can add them. They're the same sign. So your final answer is x squared minus 10x plus 21. All right, let's move on to the next one, number 2. I have 3a plus 1 times a minus 4. So my first term is a times 3a times a, that's 3a squared. Outer is 3a times negative 4, that's minus 12a. Inner is 1 times a, that's just a. And my last are my constants, 1 and negative 4 is negative 4. So again, when you combine like terms, you get what you see in the box, 3a squared minus 11a minus 4 as a final answer. Okay, so let's move on to number 3. That's here on the right. So I have 4x minus y times x minus 5y. So again, it's two binomials, but this time I have variables in all of the positions. So my first term is 4x times x. That gives me 4x squared. Outer is 4x and negative 5y. That's negative 20xy. Inner is negative y and positive x. So that's negative xy. And last, well, that's the ones at the end here, negative y and negative 5y. So that gives me 5y squared. So again, my middle terms are alike. They are like terms. So you can combine negative 20xy and negative xy to give me negative 21xy in the middle, and the other two terms remain the same. So again, your final answer is what's here in this green box. All right, here's another binomial, again with variables in all positions, but there is a slight change here. I have a 2a squared in the first term, but only an a in the second binomial. So let's see how this works out. So first, 2a squared times a gives me 2a cubed. That's the first term in your answer. Then outer, well, that's going to be the 2a and the 3b. I'm sorry, 2a squared and the 3b. So that gives me 6a squared b. Then I have my inner. Well, these are these two that are closest to each other. 5b and a, that's 5ab. And last will be the ones at the end. 5b and 3b gives me 15b squared. So in this case, the outer and inner terms or the middle terms are not alike. So therefore, you cannot simplify it any further or combine any further. So your answer is the answer right here in this box. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Really important that you practice this as much as possible in your homework. So give it a try. Good luck.